Two men stand at the center of the Western literary canon. For 3,000 years, their confrontation has been the defining image of war, of honor, and of tragedy. Achilles and Hector, the demigod and the prince, the unstoppable force and the immovable object. But the popular conception of this duel is often stripped of its nuance. We think of it as a glorious sword fight between equals. We think of it as a battle of skill. But when we go back to the source, to the Iliad itself, we find something far stranger and more horrific. We find a story not about glory, but about the terrifying dehumanization of war. We find gods who rig the game, heroes who run in terror, and a victory that feels indistinguishable from a curse. Today on Legends and Lore, we are walking the dust of the Scamander Plain. We are looking at the true story of the duel that ended the Bronze Age spirit. To understand the end, we must understand the men. They are not just enemies, they are cosmological opposites. Achilles is a creature of the threshold, the son of the sea nymph Thetis and the mortal king Peleus. He exists between the world of gods and men. He is aware of his own fate. He can live a long, obscure life or die young and glorious. He chooses glory, but Achilles is defined by his isolation. He sits apart. When he is dishonored by Agamemnon, he withdraws. He is willing to let his own countrymen die to prove a point about his own worth. He is singular, selfish, and terrifyingly pure in his rage. Hector is the opposite. Hector is the weight of the world. He is not a demigod. He is a man. He is a father, a husband, and a brother to a chaotic royal family he has to constantly save. Hector fights not for abstract glory, but for survival, for the stones of his city, for his wife, Andromache. He is the holder, the pillar that keeps Troy from falling. But Hector is also flawed, and this is vital to the history. Hector is mortal. He gets overconfident. He ignores omens. He makes tactical errors, and ultimately, it is his own pride that leaves him stranded outside the gates when the monster comes for him. The duel does not begin with Achilles and Hector. It begins with a third man, Patroclus. We cannot tell the story of the duel without the story of the armor. When Patroclus rides out to save the Greeks, he wears Achilles' armor. He becomes a visual echo of the great hero. And when Hector kills Patroclus, he doesn't just kill an enemy. He strips the body. Hector puts on the armor of Achilles. He literally wraps himself in the skin of his enemy. It is a massive act of hubris. When Achilles eventually faces him, he isn't just looking at a Trojan. He is looking at a mirror image of himself. He is looking at his own armor, stolen from the corpse of the person he loved most in the world. The death of Patroclus strips the humanity from Achilles. He stops eating. He stops sleeping. He becomes, in the words of the text, something like a lion or a wolf. He is no longer fighting a war. He is hunting. And now we reach the moment of truth. The armies have retreated. The gates are barred. Hector stands alone outside the Scaean gate. Why does he stay? Shame. He led the army to disaster that day. He feels he cannot face the citizens of Troy if he retreats now. He chooses honor over safety. But then Achilles appears. Homer describes him as the dog star, serious, bright, but bringing fever and death. And here, the true story diverges from every modern adaptation. The greatest defender of Troy looks at Achilles, and his courage snaps. He flees. They run 3 times around the city of Troy. It is not a noble clash of swords yet. It is a nightmare chase. This is the brilliance of Homer. He allows Hector to be terrified. It reminds us that Hector is just a man running from a force of nature. While they run, the cosmos decides. Zeus lifts his golden scales. He places the death day of Achilles on one side and Hector on the other. Hector's side sinks toward the underworld. The gods intervene. Athena, favoring the Greeks, plays a cruel trick. She disguises herself as Hector's brother, Deiphobus. She runs to Hector and says, "Stand, brother. We will fight him together." Hector stops. He weeps with relief. He thinks he is not alone. He turns to face Achilles. He tries to negotiate a pact. Winner returns the loser's body for burial. a civilized request. Achilles replies with the famous line, "There are no pacts between lions and men." The fight is short, spears are thrown. Hector turns to his brother for a second weapon, and the brother is gone. The illusion vanishes. Hector realizes the truth. The gods have tricked him into his death. He is alone. He draws his sword for one last charge, but Achilles is watching. And remember, Achilles is looking at his own armor. He knows the weak point, the gullet where the collarbones meet the neck. Achilles drives his spear through that gap. Hector falls. The spear misses his windpipe, allowing him a few final words. He begs for his body to be returned to his parents. Achilles, standing over him, wishes he had the stomach to eat Hector raw. He promises the dogs will devour him. Hector dies, prophesying Achilles' own death, but Achilles doesn't care. What happens next is a crime against the ancient order. Achilles pierces Hector's ankles, ties him to his chariot, and drags him through the dirt. He defiles the body in plain view of Hector's parents on the walls. It is an act of madness. Grief has made Achilles unrecognizable. But the story does not end with the kill. If it did, it would just be a slaughter. The true ending of the duel happens days later. King Priam, guided by Hermes, sneaks into the Greek camp. He enters the tent of the man who killed his son. He kisses the hands of Achilles. The terrible man-slaughtering hands, Homer calls them. He asks Achilles to remember his own father, and the ice in Achilles' heart finally cracks. They weep together, not for the war, but for the shared tragedy of being human. The killer and the father share a meal. Achilles gives the body back. He grants a truce for the funeral. The Iliad ends not with the Trojan horse or the burning of the city. It ends with the line, "Such were the funeral rites of Hector, tamer of horses." The true story of Achilles and Hector isn't about who won. It's about how two enemies bound by fate and blood found a moment of shared humanity in the middle of hell.